Hey guys, Mubarak here of Penny Stock. Hope you're doing well. Sorry for the echo in a classroom right now, but what I wanted to do is talk about what is all the rage right now, which is the Palantir technology stock. And, it's going up. It's been an interesting stock for a while. Doesn't look that great there, but here it's been fluttering around, and I want to just talk about the significance of it, the background, and this is not investment advice, but purely educational, and I'll give my best input as to how you should analyze the stock. There's going to be an analysis of the Palantir stock and kind of what metrics you should go through, what are the what I would call the ranking points of a stock that you should keep an eye out for. Basically everything that you put together to categorize whether or not you should move forward with an investment or not. So let's get right into it. First of all, you need to know the ticker symbol, PLTR. You need to know the stock exchange, which is the New York Stock Exchange. That is the highest class of the exchanges. It goes New York Stock Exchange on the top, then NASDAQ, then underneath that OTC, and then the lowest is Pink Sheet. So just definitely something to keep in mind, keep an eye on. But overall, a lot of the times, besides, it's kind of split into two factions. There's the required reporting stock exchanges, which are the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, and then there's the non-required reporting ones, which is the OTC and Pink Sheets. So just a little side note, just a little informational advice for you guys here. Now let's get into it. So there's multiple factors that I look for when I look into any stock. All right. First of all, even small things. This is an extension called Uber Suggest. You don't need this, but even small things like this let me know, what is the general hype? What is the general interest that the market has in this type of stock? All right. Because all of these are factors that determine whether or not you want to move forward with an investment of this case. So what I do is I look at, okay, the search volume is quite high, 300,000 is large. And then I use a website called Google Trends, a super useful tool that I highly recommend. And what this tool does is it allows you to compare different search terms against each other to see just overall, where in a certain place over a certain time period people are searching for on Google. All right, and it's a really cool way to understand and analyze, and I can even cut some of these down. Let me remove Facebook stock. You can have a total of about 5 different searches, and it's actually, the color corresponds with what it actually relates to. But the cool thing is that it can kind of give you a sense as to, where the trendiness of a certain stock falls. And the reason that's important is because, the market, and it's funny, you can almost kind of see the increased demand. So this is almost like on an hourly basis, or I guess the weekends it's probably off. But you can see that the interest for these types of different stocks almost kind of follows each other. And so it gives you a good idea that where in the popularity of the stock market, of CNBC, of the news and the hype, does this certain stock fall into. So you can see that the Palantir stock is not as popular as like Neo and Apple, but you can type in some other ones. So these are all, again, what I'm showing you is different methods on how to analyze the stock and get the popularity of it. But let's get into the actual technical analysis, and then we'll do a bit more, because there are certain things I need to know before I feel confident at all about this stock. So what I usually do is I go to the 6 month or the 1 year, and that gives me, I'm doing 6 months now because COVID has really changed the game. We're in May currently, and usually I would probably stick with the 1 year, but given the fact that we're basically living in a different world post-COVID and post-election, you want to stick with a more relevant time range to kind of plan your investment. And again, the time range probably matters less if you're going to be doing the longer term holds. So if you're planning on holding for a year or more, then this is probably less of a relevant factor. but I do swing trading because of my cash flow needs and just because of the fun of the game. I'll be in a stock for anywhere from a few days to a few months, depending on when I can kind of find the most profit. And usually, even after I make a lot of profit from stocks trading it the way I do, I'll usually, after a certain gain is achieved, say 20-30%, I'll sell anywhere from 70 to 80% of the actual position, and then hold on to the rest so that if there is a gain in the future, I can ride it, but I can at least lock in my profits. Common saying is, at least in this world, is that nobody's ever gone broke making a profit, right? But a lot of the times, it's very common logic and common sense to me, but for some reason people don't tend to do that. And then they'll hate themselves when the stock turns the other way, and then they sell at a loss and then tell all their friends about how much money they could have made. I'd rather not fall into that boat. So again, right away, what I like to see is the 6-month interval, and I like to see it being in a position where it's not at an all-time high. All right, and the fact that Palantir is only trading at half its high gives me a lot of confidence. It's also trading at a fairly decent low, which means that there's a good amount of support. And so now let's get a little bit more into it. That's just some basic technical analysis. What that allows me to feel confident about is that there's a high chance of gain, because it's been this high before in the past at one point in its life and in the near future, in the short term, and that there's a low chance of it going even lower. Now, again, you want to go out to the 1 year. You can see that before COVID, essentially, or even during COVID, it was only trading at half the amount. So this looks like the new normal, but still something to always keep an eye out for. Again, these are different ranking factors and points as to whether or not this will work. So then you want to go in and actually understand what this is, right? So Palantir is actually a very successful company owned by Peter Thiel and some geniuses, Alex Karp, founded in 2003. For those of you who don't know, Peter Thiel is the one who invested in Facebook, was in the Social Network movie. He's the co-founder of PayPal. Just a genius guy. So probably, and everything he does probably, turns to gold. But you want to do some basic research into what exactly it is. It was founded 18 years ago. It's doing $1 billion in revenue, and they are basically one of the main technologies that assists the Department of Defense. So pretty awesome, pretty highly backed. And so this all gives me confidence that it probably has an ability to constantly go up. And even though they were founded in 2003, they didn't do an IPO until July 2020. So there's probably a high chance that there's a high upside, a high ability for it to go up. And again, that's just all stats. So those are, I don't even need to go into it more. I want to keep it, specific as to this case of where Palantir falls, right? So you did your technical analysis, which gives you confidence, and you do your fundamental analysis. Now, to take this further, we would go into all the different types of time frames, and we would run some kind of analysis on it using some of the advanced screening tactics that we have at mpennystock.com. And then from a fundamental analysis standpoint, well, this is really where it gets fun. So what you would do is you would go into the financials and you would look at different aspects of their statements, of their profits, of their balance sheet, of their loans. So there's a lot of ability to go here. Now, sometimes with public companies, it becomes tough because, especially in the tech world, actually, let me clarify that. With the crazy amounts of funds that companies are able to raise, it's tough to go into the financials. I would almost recommend instead going into just the 10K, which is the annual report, which you can just get via Googling. So type in Palantir 10K annual. And, this is a required statement that public companies, especially on the NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange, but even on the OTC, basically, they're required to submit a full report, 10K annual report. It's pretty long, it's pretty hefty, but it has literally every single piece of information and detail about the company, down to the core of how it works, how they make money, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. So if you're ever going to dial in to an investment, this is your hard-earned money. It's probably worthwhile to take the time to, before you're able to or about to invest any funds into a certain stock, if you're going to go the long term whatsoever, more than a week out from holding the stock, you should probably understand the 10K and just understand how the business works and just have a general thesis as to why you believe the company is successful or why it's going to stay in business and do better than before, because that's what a company is graded on, right? Every quarter, public companies are required to submit earnings reports, which basically is a report card given to the public on how they did. And analysts on Wall Street and people set expectations as to what their sales should be, what their net income should be, what their EPS or earnings per share. That's a fancy financial metric that will go in detail in a future video on, or we talk about over at pennystock.com on. But these are all kind of factors and financial metrics that these companies aim to hit based on the analysts. And that's when Wall Street will determine whether or not they did their job, whether the shareholders are being treated right by the management in terms of is the management doing their job. So all of this information kind of goes into play. So hope that was insightful. That was just some very basic analysis on Palantir and just how you can kind of utilize this set of philosophy and out loud thinking that hopefully that I just did and didn't ramble too much, to apply to any stock and any investment that you do, whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's the stock market, whether it's real estate, whether it's anything. So hope you guys enjoyed that. As always, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions at admin, that's ADMIN, @pennystock.com. Hope to hear from you guys soon. Take care.